So you can find Black and Empowered Podcast on YouTube and on Dr. Isha Metzger's website. So click on her handle, go under Black and Empowered Podcast, and you can find an ample amount of podcast episodes where we're talking all things Black, all things wellness, and all things Black excellence. See you there.
You guys, I'm so excited to welcome you back to the Black and Empowered Podcast. It has been, I have a son now. He is 16 months in 14 days. So that means it's been at least 16 plus a few months since I have been active in this podcast space. I did come back at the top of last semester and start re-recording with some students in my community psychology class. So I got to, dust off my vocals and my voice, but we haven't, sat one-on-one or with any personal guests in a very long time. So I am really, 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 really excited to finally sit down, take a pause in all the daycare and cooking and sweeping the floors. I sweep more now than I have ever swept in my entire life. We
It'll do
are
that.
navigating, right, the world's craziest transition into whatever this new administration is and, the continued ending of the world, as I like to call it. But I am really, really excited to kick off what I am calling the Mirror Mirror series with some very good friends of mine. I call these people my soulmates. They really do illuminate my life. They show me parts of myself. Hopefully, I am showing them parts of themselves as well. These are a series of women who I'm really excited to introduce my listeners to. The that we have today is so special to me. I want to start with a quick maybe a story time of how we met, how we fell in love initially, right?
Wait, which story?
Exactly. We can pick which one we want to share with the audience. But as we are, calling this series Mirror Mirror, I do want it to be something that is, vulnerable. So we might actually go there. We'll see how the
Oh,
conversation goes. Um, but today, you guys, the voice that you hear I call her we're going to start with that introduction because I call her my swole mate.
okay.
So we're
Yeah,
going to
she
start
does.
there. And we're going to have my good friend, Miss Quiana, or actually, let me say Dr. Quiana, and I'm going to have her introduce herself. And
Me?
we'll start with just a quick introduction, and then we'll
Okay.
talk about like what the show is going to be about. And we're going to play a game just to get us loosened up, but just tell everybody who you are, and we'll start with how we know each other.
Okay. Well, I am Dr. Quiana Shamsid-Deen. I am a social worker at heart. It is the core of who I am. But that has blossomed into many, many different avenues that most people probably would think are a bit all over the place. But for me, I feel like they're all connected due to the marriage that I have with my husband, who has been an entrepreneur. If you ask him since he was 3 years old, I've been exposed to entrepreneurship. And so for me, I kind of put them together where I will coin myself as a social entrepreneur because I am still very passionate about service and very passionate about what I do in the world. And when it comes to just human behavior and just humanity, period. And I'm just redefining that now, but I'm also very much active in the entrepreneurship aspect. My husband is in restaurants. He's also in business consultancy, and then I've kind of branched out into doing my own consultancies in that space, focusing on nonprofits. Now blossoming into doing ghostwriting for books for high net worth individuals. So it's just really, there's really no one core way to say who I am. I am I will say, a multi-social entrepreneur in different avenues. But I am excited to be here and kind of discuss and talk through that a little bit more to give you a little bit more depth.
Yes. Yes, you are so humble. You are so humble. Your husband is an ambassador. We met and I said, I'm sorry, sir. You're an ambassador to what country? My country, Sierra Leone. My mom met him. It was bowing down. I said, okay, whose company am I in?
Yes,
And
yes,
Dr. Kiana also has one of Roman's most famous children's books that she is the author of, Naya's Shining Star. So we're going to be able to talk about that as well.
yeah,
As I said, today is to introduce a new series to you all.
yeah.
where we talk about those things in our life that we are just chewing over and trying to figure out as Black women, as mothers, as
Mhm. Mhm.
entrepreneurs. So, how
Mhm.
do I transition for me into motherhood without losing my identity? Dr. Kiana has 2 kids and she's been, talking to me about that. We have been trying to negotiate these workouts, these play dates,
Trying.
going swimming, right? So, how do we manage all of these multiple roles? How can I balance peace and productivity? How can I balance? Well, she's married. I'm very single. We are going to talk about, that quest, Lord, that I have been on. She's been a part of that journey. Um, but today's focus will be on monetizing your doctorate. Dr. Kiana just
Mhm.
said that she is an entrepreneur. Like I said, she is very humble because she is very busy and has already figured out how to monetize her doctorate. So, what we're going to do today is we're going to focus in on that. We're going to make sense of all that because I think what tends to happen is that, we think that we're faking it till we make it. And people around us are looking like, oh no, you're the expert. You already made it. So we're gonna figure out how to let you see that you have made it. We're gonna illuminate that through this mirror episode and really focus in on strategizing the best ways to continue. We're gonna say that continue
I love it.
monetizing your
Okay.
doctorate.
Get me right.
All right, yeah, exactly. Okay. So my listeners are familiar with the way that we start the show. Have you heard of the Song Association Challenge?
No.
Okay, exactly. You said no. So the Song Association Challenge is fun. It says challenge and it sounds intimidating, but it is very fun. And I know you're going to be really good at this. So
Okay.
it is a quick game that we play just to loosen up, our
Mhm.
brain cells, our vocal cords.
Me,
Um,
me, me. Okay, here we go.
exactly. So I'm going to, well, we can decide who goes first. But we're going to say a word, and the other person is going to have 10 seconds to sing a song that has that word in the title
Do this all the
or in the
time.
lyrics. You do this
Oh, I'm a
exactly.
G in this. Let's go.
Exactly. So I know you're going to be good at this because we will just be having random conversations
It
and a
just bust out
word
a
will,
song.
will start the song, right? Okay.
Yeah. Do
So,
it.
let me go first because I know you're good at this. Let's have your word. Oh, we're talking about monetizing your doctorate. Your first word will be money.
Money, 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 money. Money. Hey, money, 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 money. Money. I got you. Come on.
Easy, easy. See, I did it. All right. So, round 1.1. Let's
Okay.
give me a word.
Ooh. I'm gonna get you. River.
Girl, I was born river. I'm gonna do this for river, river. I was born by the river. I was fast. I was
Tell you, she can't go left. She can't. She always go left. She can't just stay on the straight and narrow. Good job. Good job.
that was cute. You did really good. I kind of want to
Mhm.
do another round.
Okay.
Mm.
Let's see.
And just because it's you, I'm gonna say your word is boss.
Oh wait, I don't know the words. What's the words of the song? I know the word boss. There's a song called Boss. Is it I'm bossy and something? See, I know the words,
And you got
girl.
to
I'm
be. I got
old.
this song too.
I'm old.
Who is that? Is that
I,
Khalees? Who is that? I'm bossy. I'm doing
is it?
the.
It is
I
Khalees.
think it's Khalees.
It is
There you go.
Khalees. It's Khalees. Sorry, Khalees. I
We're gonna
don't
give you
know
the
the
point. We're gonna give you the
words. I
point.
don't know the
We're gonna give you the
words.
point. All right, let's do one more.
Okay, let me see. I'm not gonna do that. Let's see. Ooh, Instagram.
Instagram.
I play the wind.
What? Instagram. Meet me on the ground. It's going down.
Is
See, I
that
can
even
go back to
words?
Beyonce video phone. Who says Instagram though? Instagram.
Nobody.
It's so
Nobody,
millennial.
cause I don't know no song either. I just wanted to
Okay.
win.
No, first of all, so I should have. So that is a. You
Fine,
have to have
fine.
a
I'll
song in
change
mind at least.
it. I'll
What?
change it.
Hold on,
Fine. Survivor. There you go.
girl. Don't cheat for me. Don't cheat for me. Okay, I'm not gonna sing the chorus because that's too easy. I'll start from the top. Now that you're out of my life, I'm so much better. You thought I would be weak without you, but I'm stronger. You
You better
thought that
tell them.
I'll be what? You
You
said you
better
better
tell
tell.
them. You better tell
He
them.
cheated for me. That's too easy. I'm dancing, baby. I'm not your killer. I'm not your son. Yeah, keep on singing. That
Yay!
was
You
okay.
got it.
Okay.
You
Okay.
got it. You got it.
She went from too hard to too easy. Okay, I appreciate it. I
I
appreciate it.
got you. I got you. I'm a woman's woman. What can I
Y'all,
say?
I appreciate it. We love a girl's girl. Okay, so speaking of, right, let's talk about our origin story for real.
Okay.
So, our true origin is that, speaking of girls, girl, I stole you from your best friend, who is a good friend of mine, Dr. Tamara Collins, who actually needs to be, a guest on this
She
series later
does.
on.
She does.
But I stole you from Dr. Collins because we met and our souls matched. And
Hmm.
I really appreciate how you love out loud, how you are so vulnerable with your truth, but also so strong in that vulnerability. I love that your core is connecting and community. I could tell that very early on. We literally
Aw.
love at first sight. We connected, and then we realized, wait, hold on, you live down the road from me? Oh,
Like, wait a minute. Like, right there?
literally, we
Like,
could
I can
walk.
walk to your house?
Oh, so yeah. So immediately, I would say we started connecting on, the personal level, love, soulmates, but also, okay, self-improvement. And, what is my next step? Whether that be working out, we both were like, okay, I'm trying to get back in this gym. I'm trying to get disciplined. I'm trying to, express this commitment through showing up
Hmm.
consistently.
Hmm.
And I really appreciate that, right? Like for me, I've always said like my biggest fear is complacency, right? So I
Hmm.
love meeting someone who is satisfied with where they are, but also looking to get better.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So we first connected, I would say, over, being swole mates. We were in the
Hmm.
gym. Later
We
on today, we
were.
might we were in the gym. We might talk about what happened through that gym and
I'm gonna let you lead that one
why we had
because
to take a quick
I'm not
pause.
in it. I'm not in it.
Y'all, I was working out with Kiana one day. I'm gonna tell the story and we're gonna
Okay.
transition. I was working out with Kiana one day and saw a man and I said, "Is that my husband?" And she said, "No, no, it's not. No, it's not." And me being stubborn and me being stupid, I
She's so
said,
stubborn.
"It's maybe baby daddy." And she also told me, you do what you gonna do." I said what I'm gonna say. Okay. And for weeks, I proceeded to stalk this man until one day I worked up the courage. Well, I walked up to him at the water fountain and then he talked to me. We exchanged numbers. Fast forward, now I have a son. Great.
Well, and there it is. And
That is
there it
the
is.
that is the fastest fast forward ever in life. So we just fast forwarded to now I have
Yeah.
a son. Dr. Kiana and I are still trying to get back in the gym. As you guys see, I'm not married or engaged or in a relationship. So we're still talking about your ambassador husband. Where are his friends? When are you going to hook me up with my
Listen,
soulmate for
I
real?
hope
Because
they don't see this, but you don't want his friends.
clearly, right, like my discernment was off, my decision making. Let me not say that. I got the most beautiful
Oh
baby in the world.
yeah, and I firmly believe everyone serves a purpose, and that was
You
just
know,
that purpose. And you
the
called it maybe
purpose.
baby daddy, and it was yes, baby daddy. I mean,
Talk
listen,
about foreshadowing. How did we
and
know
he's
in that
just
day?
we knew that day.
We knew that day.
You the
No,
one who you listened to the first one. I was like, no, he ain't your husband,
no, no,
but
no.
you was willing to compromise and pivot.
Okay. And what's meant to be will be. And truly, I always say,
There it
like,
is.
okay,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
sometimes we can choose the wrong partner, but you do
yeah.
not get the wrong baby. And I know
There you
that for a
go.
fact. Like, this baby
Yes,
was made for me.
and he is a cutie, a sweetie. So everything happens for a reason.
Yes. And this is the type of resolution that we always help each other find because there is truly a resolution.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
do
yeah.
think that today's resolution, hopefully, will be the same that you will see that despite feeling like, oh my God, what am I doing? How do I
I
monetize what
know.
I've been working? So
I do. I
you've
do see
been
that.
on the right path all along the way. You have
I
all the
receive it.
right tools. You know you got the expertise. So what we're going
I
to try to
receive it.
do is just put it together in a package that makes sense for you in terms of your next steps.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's do it. So
Hmm.
I just said your next steps. Let's start from the beginning. So Tell me about your journey into social work and your doctorate. How did you go from even your doctorate to where you are now? So start from the beginning and
Ooh.
tell me how we got here.
So it's interesting because well, see, now you're going to say I am too humbled, but I am going to be a part of an anthology. It's a volume 2 for our doctoral journey by Nicole Tell.
Exactly. Of course you are.
Sorry.
Exactly.
So I wrote about the journey. So it's
Wow.
very interesting because
Yeah.
it's fresh on my mind because we just did our second edit. That question was like, okay, I know
Wow.
exactly.
I can't
So
wait to read
I
it.
started off with, I'm chapter 9, by the way. Okay. So
Here we go.
I started off with, I actually started at FAMU and did not finish at FAMU. So I started there. I went there for 2 years. And unfortunately, when my second year happened, first year, of course, we did the first year flunking out business because, I was like, wait a minute, I'm free. I don't have to call mommy and ask her, can I go out? I didn't understand that freedom.
What?
And I was in college at 17. So it was and my mom was up north. So it was a whole adjustment the first semester, but I got it right by
Hmm.
second semester, second year. So I was ready to do my thing. And unfortunately, I was not on scholarship. It was straight out of the pocket. My dad was paying out of pocket and unfortunately just could not afford to continue. So I had to leave the school. My mama said, send my child home. And so at that time, of course, I'm devastated because now I'm like, well, that's the thing you do. You graduate high school, you go to college. What else is there? So for a very long time, I did not know what to do. I was in this space of like, what everyone else is in school, everyone's doing this. I didn't return back to school until I was probably 24.
Wow. Mhm.
Yeah, I went back at 24 and then and it's just
The
so happened
years.
it just so happened that it was a cousin of mine who I had just met when I went back home. And she was like, first of all, you got too much in you. And I'm gonna need you to be figuring out how you're gonna get that out because what we not gonna have is you not having your education. I said,
Wow.
and literally her
Yeah.
and her husband is actually my cousin. But they're cousins, marriage, whichever. It
Mhm.
really put me on this path to get me back in school. Talked to
Wow.
all the administrators to figure out how we could do it, fresh start, all that stuff because I couldn't get the credit because it wasn't paid for, right? So I had to start a complete fresh start and start over. And so I was able to go back to school at Western Connecticut State University. And that's when I pursued BSW. I originally was in education. But as I started to learn a little bit more about just human service and what my passion was, and my pastor said this. He told me one day, the thing that pisses you off the most is where your passion lies. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I can see that. I can see that. And I'm just upset about just
Wow.
like not having services, not having people to talk to, not having people kind of just coach you and guide you. So I knew
Wow.
when I tried to figure
Mhm.
out what place that was going to be, it was social work. I felt like social work kind of covered the gamut. I think it's very broad. And I'm a lover of what social work can do. So that's what started me back on that journey of going back into school. And I never stopped since. And it really just started with a spark of someone seeing that there was more to me than I saw in myself and really pulled me out of that depression of not
Yeah.
knowing, not having a path, not knowing what to do when I had to leave
Yeah.
FAMU.
Yeah.
And that, yeah, from there was BSW. I finished that. And then it was MSW. I did that in a year. So I was able to do an accelerated program. And after my master's, I knew I was going to do a terminal degree because I felt like it wasn't over, but I
Mhm.
was like, I ain't going back to school. So there was a big gap. I graduated in 2011. I happened to meet my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time.
Mhm.
And if you ask him, he might say he the reason I moved to Atlanta in 2011, right after I graduated. But I had always said I wanted to go to Atlanta.
So
He
we just
just
aligned.
reminded me. He was just a reminder, like, well, I was gonna go there anyway, so I'm not
Oh
gonna go. So
yeah.
I
It was divine.
moved
It was divine.
to Atlanta in 2011, and I did not go back for my doctorate until 2020, 2019. I don't remember 2019. I went back in 2019 to get my doctorate for DSW at University of Southern California.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
that was a challenge within itself too, because when I first decided to do it and apply and I got accepted, I was pregnant. So I had to defer. And then we'll talk about that. But then I lost my first child and went through that process of, just not knowing how I feel about it. And deferred. And I was like, all right, well, now I'm not pregnant, so let me just go ahead and dive into this. So I went ahead and went back to see if I could defer. But by the time I did that, I was pregnant again. So like, Now I gotta defer again, and you can only defer 3 times. So I then had Micah, went through all of that. I was like, all right, I'm good. I can do this. So I went ahead and enrolled to start in August. And as I'm starting in August, we know we now have Aya. So I was like, okay, you just want me to do school while I'm pregnant, apparently. And I ain't got no
Wow.
other choice. So I literally enrolled with a 1-year-old
Wow. While
and
pregnant.
pregnant with Aya. I had Aya in January. I started in August. And had Aya in January. So everybody who was in my classes know, they see the baby, she's on my breastfeeding with the camera tilted up. They're like, oh, she breastfeeding, doc, she good. She like, you had them really supportive, like, we know, and I don't know how I did it. I still have nightmares about not graduating, but apparently I finished with toddlers. Yeah. And here we are.
Here we are. You were going to be here no matter what, right? That dream
Mm-hmm.
deferred or delayed was
Mm-hmm.
not a dream denied. That dream
Yeah.
being, right? Getting your doctorate. Once you realize it was social work,
Mm-hmm.
you're somebody who that's very rare that you stayed for all 3 degrees, right?
I
In the
did.
same field. That is to say
I
that
did.
that is what was meant to be for you.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
for, like you said, you was going to go through that while pregnant, no matter what.
Like every time, like, okay, I'm fine. I'll just do it. Because if I don't, it's not gonna happen. So I'm about to
Yeah.
figure this thing out, and I had to have that support. I had a very good support team, as you know. Dr. Callens was called many a time. My other best friend is
Hmm.
also has a doctorate.
Hmm.
So she's Dr. Bailey. She was called many a times. My husband will tell you that we got this doctorate together. So he
Wow.
was definitely a part of that process. And then I had, of course, two people who were in my cohort who were very, very supportive during our process doing it together. So we got through it, and I'm here. And I have the doctorate and finishing that. So
Wow.
transitioning that into entrepreneurship, it was, like I said, just introduced by my husband. He had already wanted me to start leading the nonprofit that he had started over 28 years ago. And so I was already kind of dibble and dabbling in doing it part-time here and there to kind of take that off of his shoulder. I had Aya during COVID. And so schools were closed, right?
What year she was born in 2020?
She was born in 2020. I
Hmm.
graduated 2021. She was born January 2020, January 1st, 2020.
Okay.
New Year's
She's a
baby.
New Year's baby.
She's a
Yeah.
New Year's baby. And COVID happened March, around that
Hmm.
February, March's time, everything shut down. And I
March, we
was
thought it
working
was
at,
going to be 2 quick weeks of quarantine.
yeah, just be done. Nope. And I was working
Hmm.
for Fulton County Schools in administration. Um, and so everything shut down. We all knew all the schools shut down and everything, but somehow they were like, we need to come back to work. Wait, but the schools are closed. We are a school. We know that. And I got kids. So either I come into work and leave them at home and go to jail,
Mm.
or I take them with me to work and get fired.
So
So
neglect or unemployment.
which one would you like for me to do at the end of
Yeah.
the
Wow.
day?
Yeah.
So I literally, and it's funny that I say this, I was talking to, you have your work best friend, and she reminded me of this when I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. And she said, well, you said a year ago that you don't see yourself being here after this, a year later. And she said, this is the year later.
Hmm.
And I said, oh, and I'm a 9-to-5er. Let me tell you, I like the security of the 15th and the 30th. I don't know nothing else. I don't know nothing else. So it's very difficult, but now I'm forced, literally. And I had this conversation with God for real. Like, I don't think I want to do this anymore. But the fear of like, what does that look like? I had somewhere to go. It's not like we don't have a business I could just pour into. So I had somewhere to go, but it still was that fear of that consistency. But now it's like,
Hmm.
listen, you put it out there and you said it out loud, and now I'm going to give you the opportunity. So now you're going to do it. So literally, I was forced into like having to just quit my job and go full throttle into Supreme Family Foundation, and I haven't missed a beat since. And that was in 2020.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So you did drop some gems there for us. First, starting from your pastor who said, what did he say? What pisses you off
The most is where
is
your
your
passion lies.
is where your passion lies. And then you had a cousin-in-law who saw you and said, you need to continue pursuing what
Mm-hmm.
you are capable of, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people along the way who encouraged you, it
Mm-hmm.
seems like has been a theme for you in terms of helping you to get to the next step for you.
Absolutely. I'm a firm believer. I've always known this as a young age that people say that God speaks to you in certain ways. God uses people to talk to you.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
I listen, but I'm very discerned about who I listen to. Yeah.
Amen. Amen. Right. Everyone's advice is not advice that you need to take, but right when it
Mm-mm.
resonates with you, when it echoes
Mm-hmm.
something that you read in the Bible, when it
Mm-hmm.
echoes
Mm-hmm.
something that, right, that you've heard or that you
Mm-hmm.
felt in your spirit, then okay, confirmation. We
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
confirmation along the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Yes, I really appreciate that. And that's something that we have to learn to do is to check in with ourselves and to say, okay, is this in
Yeah.
line with how I see myself? And really, I think that that's a process that, like you said, is lifelong. You
Yeah.
are, I think, very solid in your role as an entrepreneur. I think that whatever it is that you decide to pour yourself into, you can do, right? Children's book author, supporting your nonprofit. Like I said, you guys travel and take people back to the home country to,
Yeah.
right, introduce them to their heritage. And that's a part of the work that I do in research, but I know how important that is for identity development. So
Yeah.
these are all things that you have found along the way. So in
Mhm.
terms of monetizing your doctorate, I want to keep thinking about it in that same way, right? So not only what pisses you off. So I do come from a strengths-based approach. So I tend to think of it as what's easiest for you that's hard for other people. And
Mm.
that is what you can now monetize and say, okay, this is easy for me. It's fun for me. I'm passionate about this, right? Maybe it
Mm-hmm.
pisses me off and it made me passionate, but now I have that expertise. So it's easy for me, right? So
Yeah.
what's easiest for you that you like to do that now you can use to help other people, right? So we know, and we've talked about this before, it's not all about the money. We need the money to make life go on, right? To be able
Mm-hmm.
to give back to our community, to give our children those experiences that we want them to have. But we
Mm-hmm.
also hate the money in that we hate that we have to get the money, right? We wish that we could do
Mm-hmm.
this work for free.
Yeah.
But right, so that is what I would ask you, just in terms of thinking about, right, monetizing it, not from the monetary perspective, but how is it going to be something that's easy, that doesn't drain you, that
Mm-hmm.
serves your purpose in that way, right? What's your God-given gift that's easy that now we can think about monetizing?
As you're saying it, I think I know. I already know.
No, looking at you and you're right. What's easy for you?
That what I'm doing now. It's kind
Mm,
of, and I'm only, so I don't even know how to word what I'm doing now. I think it's just more empowering and pouring into being vulnerable and really
to what
speaking to
population?
vulnerability.
Who are you talking
Women,
to?
Black women.
There we
I'm
go.
speaking to Black women. I'm speaking to Black women. I'm really
Mm,
focused on this idea of just the soft Black woman and what that looks like, and how we have been
mm,
denied being able to be that. We've been denied being able to be fragile, and that all sparked from my experience with my daughter. That's where this all has come from. And so I really have just dived into the ability to just be, because we've been charged to be all of these other things except for just be, whatever that is. Like you're
yeah.
telling me what I need to do, but you're not
Wow.
allowing me to just be in my space, or be whatever it is. Like be vulnerable, be fragile, be, heartbroken at a little bit and then come back up, stand back up or whatever. We're not allowed to have that vulnerability and that fragility, nor do I see Black women be allowed to be seen as such.
Fun.
And so I'm really pouring into just talking about that out loud by using my own experiences and my own stories. And in that, I feel like it is touching women who are typically the strong. I just even want to dispel that myth of strength at the end of the day,
Yeah.
because I feel like
Yeah.
what Black women are doing are being courageous, not
Mm,
necessarily strong, because strong implies that we're not allowed to have those fragile moments, right? We have to
yeah.
consistently be here all the time. And I want to just dispel that. I want to get rid of that, because it's actually a detriment to our health. It's a detriment to our mental health, our physical health, everything, emotional, spiritual. It's a detriment to us, and it's too much of a high expectation that's being put on us. And we need to be able to have some reciprocity in relationships, and I don't think we're allowed to do that.
Yeah. And you said that your daughter is someone who inspires you to start
Mm-hmm.
having these conversations.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that journey, that
Yes.
inspiration, and how you found yourself being more willing to be open with
Yeah.
that vulnerability?
So, in 2017, I became pregnant with my daughter, my first pregnancy. I don't say first pregnancy, but my first full term pregnancy, I should say that. And she was diagnosed in utero with hyperplastic left heart syndrome, which essentially means the left side of her heart was not developing while she was in the womb. And so typically when someone is diagnosed with that, they will not survive outside of your womb. So full pregnancy, 9 months, she's good, heartbeat, you're doing all the prenatal stuff. But once she comes out, she will not be able to live without having major surgeries. And it can be up to 3 phases of surgeries. And the first one starts immediately after she's out, and there is no chance of her surviving those things. And
At
so
what
we had to
point?
make a decision.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's what I was going to ask. At what point did you realize that she had this condition, and were you given any choices? How was that
20 weeks.
process? You
At
were
20
4
weeks.
months.
Yeah, I was 4 months. So we learned that in 20 weeks. They had to do multiple ultrasounds. So you get the first ultrasound and they're like, we might want to send you to the, cardiac. You need to go over to Children's Healthcare of Atlanta and get a more detailed um, ultrasound. So we went through 3 ultrasounds for them to tell us that they're not seeing it. Do you want to get another one? No, I don't need y'all to take me through that again. You have already told me what the diagnosis is. I don't need other confirmations. Okay, so now what are the options? And there really aren't any options besides if you're going to do this, then immediately when you give birth, that they would have to do an immediate surgery as soon as she gets out,
If you're
which is the
going to do
first
this,
part.
meaning if you're going to carry her to term. So you had the choice to terminate your pregnancy and you decided to.
Yes, I did have that option. But because of the new laws, we only had 2 weeks to make that decision because I was at
Why?
20
Because
weeks
it
and
was
I
that.
think
Wow. Yeah.
maybe 2 months. I don't remember. I think at that time you couldn't terminate past 24 weeks or 22 weeks. It's either 22 or 24. I didn't remember what it was back
But
then,
either
but it was
way,
one of
right? That's
those.
either a
Yeah,
month or 2 weeks.
you had to
Hmm.
make that decision.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then my husband is Muslim, and so he just could not. It's against his religion to even do that. Um, and for me, I didn't know what to do. I wanted to honor his wishes in that space, but I also didn't know what to do as well. So yeah,
Hmm.
I carried my child full term. Yeah, and
Wow.
then she was born and on May 2nd, and she passed May 5th. So she lived for 3 days. So
Wow.
in that process of when I say that it inspired, it was just imagine the things that you have to face in that, and you have a physical manifestation of carrying a child, and naturally normal, you have people who are excited for you and want to congratulate you, want to rub on your
Wow.
belly, want to tell you stories about, oh, you're going to be a girl mom, and oh, I can imagine how you're going to decorate the room, and I have to now make a decision on whether I spare their feelings or my own. So even in that space, I don't get to be fragile, I don't get to be vulnerable, because now I have to.
So you weren't even telling
Yeah,
people. You were
I was making
just,
decisions depending on
yeah,
who it was.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
do I
yeah.
want, and then on top of that, do I want to have to retell this over and over and over
Hmm.
again? Right. So
Hmm.
people that I started making decisions that people who I'm going to see all the time, who are like in my cubby or like where I work at Fulton County, I was in a certain area and there's like 6 of us. So I told the ones I talked to the most because I
Yeah.
knew that they were going to try to plan baby showers. I didn't want that. And so I told them. And then, of course, my family, you got to tell your family. But people who I'm not going to see all the time, sometimes I will go with the flow. Other times I'll be like, I just didn't want to have to. I was taking on not doing that to them,
Hmm. Hmm.
you know. But what really sparked me on this journey of like just now talking about it, even though it was 2017, of now discussing it, I feel like I'm strong enough to discuss it now. I'm courageous enough, I say, to discuss it now. But I also, had this whole thing of people like minding your own wounds because you don't know. It is not simple as just having a miscarriage. It's not as simple as just making a decision to have pregnancy, because you also can get through the whole gamut and still. So just leave people alone. Like, just let them be. Just let them be at the end of the day. And so just that is what really sparked this idea of like Naya, her name means purpose. So I was never okay with just, I had a child and she's gone. Like, no, I don't believe in that. There is a reason and there is a
Mm.
purpose. And in
Mm.
that, it's developing into, you had the book, just telling her story now, giving her legacy, giving her life. And what really brought that to my attention was me having kids afterwards. My son was born on the day she passed a year later. So I'm like, this purpose. It's just, y'all don't have to be believers, but I'm a believer. There's no way that was designed, because he wasn't even due on that day. He was due on the 22nd, but he was born specifically on that day.
On
So I'm
what
like,
day?
there's a reason, on the day that she passed a year later.
What's his birthday?
May 5th.
Beautiful. Yeah. And that
Yes.
5 from 22, he had a purpose. He came on that day specifically.
Pretty
Wow.
much. Yeah. So just discussing, having those conversations, discussing just the vulnerability, not feeling like I was able to do that during that time, but needing to do so, needing to be able to just talk and not feel the weight of carrying anything else but what I'm carrying, and just people being there. You don't know what to say during that time, so you don't have to try to figure out what to say. But what I do realize that got me through was presence. I had people who were present. Tamora, present. My friend who happens to have the same name as me, Quiana, was present. And that's what I needed. That's what carried me through. My husband, present. Those who knew, present. You don't have to figure out what to say. I don't want you to give me the prayers. I don't want you to talk about the miracles. I do believe in science. Her heart is not developing. She will not live. It just is what it is, right? And so just let me be. Let me be. So now I want to create these safe spaces for women to, not even if it's just childbirth or whatever, to just be and feel safe in being able to express that, and being safe to just be vulnerable. And that's probably where my new passion lies.
Yeah, and when you say present, that's so important, because you had the presence of others, but they also allowed you to be present for yourself.
Yeah.
And that presence for yourself is what leads to healing. So
Yep.
it's great that you're creating that space, like you're saying, for other women now to be present with themselves.
Yeah.
Okay,
Long story to
so
get to there. There we are.
but there's a thing, here we are, right? So knowing you, not knowing what you're doing in the entrepreneurial space right now, and just asking what's easy to you. My initial answer was speaking. You're a speaker, you're an orator, right? Like, you flow. It might be the New York, it might be the Jamaica, it might be, who knows, right? Like, but
Yeah.
you flow, speak, you are able to connect. And certainly that ability, once you are putting that in a space where you are calling people to be present and to listen and to be vulnerable and to share, that can only lead to healing. But you're right in that we need to make that space.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. So one of the ways that I know you've made that space is through your children's book, right? So for me, right, that gives me and Roman 15 minutes to be present with each other, to share in Naya's story.
Yeah.
How else are you creating moments for women to be present?
So I will say, I have just started to storytell.
Mm.
And I think that gives permission. So I wouldn't say I've created a physical space, but I am focused now on just giving the permission to tell your stories, to give voice to those moments that you may not have ever felt you could do, or you may not have had words for. And I say that because, and this is just recent, like I've done a Substack, and now this is a whole new thing. So now I'm writing more, and I guess you
You're
want to
on
call it
TikTok. I love
blogging.
your TikTok.
I'm doing, some TikToks here and there when I feel like turn on a camera, which still feels
They're
weird
so
to me, but
good.
I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And that's where that's the space I've been playing in, because that's just where we are now as a society at this point. So why not utilize it and not get lost in it? And that's where people are listening. So why not? And I think in that, the topics that we're discussing, or the topics that I'm talking about, is just giving permission. That's it. Just permission to be vulnerable. So I'm starting with me. And if that inspires others to be like, hey, I should too, then I feel like that's also part of purpose. And that is doing the job that God is calling me to do. And I firmly believe that started with the experience that I had with Naya. It's like, you should be talking about it, because I held on. I kept my experience with Naya sacred for 5 years. So once I started talking, and I'm reaping I wouldn't say the benefits, but I'm seeing the manifestation of opening my mouth just from what people are saying, people coming up to you and even talking about child loss. There are those who are like, I lost a child. I've never talked about it. I never knew how to. and I never knew how to explain it to my children.
Mhm.
And just
Mhm.
because of that, I know now. So I just know it's sparking just conversations and opening
Yeah.
up and being vulnerable, or just different ways to process grief. Like even that, how can I process that? How can I think about ways to maintain legacy and memory? There are so many things that are
Mhm.
sparked from just
Yeah.
being vulnerable and just talking. It
And
sounds so
just talking.
simple,
Yeah.
but just talking and creating
Mhm.
those spaces where we're not judging you for it. No one is telling you what to do. We just want you to be safe to express. And
Yeah.
so that's where I've been so far.
Yeah.
Where that goes, I still
We're going
don't
to talk
know.
about exactly
I
where
don't
that can
know.
go and how to monetize it. I love that for you. I love that for you because what you are doing is purpose-driven work. So you said that your husband's Muslim. I know you're Christian. The Bible says God is going to bring comfort to those who grieve, right? And we know that grief is out loud.
Yeah.
That sadness that you were in for those 5 years was allowing it to continue, was allowing it
Yeah.
to take longer to heal. Right.
Mhm.
And once you start to vocalize that through grief and through that vulnerability, that's where that comfort comes from. And I
Mhm.
really do think that by you doing that, now you're allowing it to multiply in others. So, how do we monetize exactly that? Right? How do we
Mm.
monetize creating a space for people? um, to share their voices, right? And to
Mhm.
hear your voice. So the
Yeah.
first part of that is what you said, telling your story. You're telling your story right now. I'm already going to tell you this is going on my podcast. Maybe now it's going on your TikTok. It's going on your social medias as well so that people can see, right?
Yeah.
That you are in the practice of sharing your story and using that to give back.
Yeah.
Site. Your website needs to say that you are a speaker, that you are a space creator, right? That you are vulnerable in sharing your experiences so that others can heal. And that's the way
Mhm.
that you're talking about yourself. That's the way that if you get comfortable in expressing, you can monetize. People will pay for that space and that
Mm.
comfort. First,
Mm.
through just
Mhm.
being able to listen to it, right? So,
Mhm.
how do I
Mhm.
create that podcast or how do I monetize my TikTok platform? Right.
Mm.
So, those are questions that we can start asking to really set yourself up to make money from this purpose driven work that you're doing.
Mhm.
So tell me about your website. Where can people find you? What's your TikTok? And how can we start thinking about using that to generate? We're going to talk about
Mhm.
generating leads and generating income.
Okay, so I have two websites. One is my
Let's go.
consultancy, and then one is the storytelling aspect of it, the healing work, which I now have coined the heart work. I'm doing heart work, which I think kind of
Wow.
works as well because Naya passed from a heart condition, and so I'm like, you know what? God put that in my head too. Like, this is heart work, so that's what I'll call it. But the heart work aspect is fempoweredstories.com. So that is that. That's where the book is. That's where the blogs are. Just the storytelling and the voice is where that is. And then the
That's where this
consultancy
episode
piece.
is going to be.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
the consultancy piece, which is the business aspect, is also named after my daughter, which is Naya Pro Solutions.
Wow.
.com.
Wow. Yep.
Yeah.
And on your website, do you have a contact me form?
I do. I have contact on both. So I
Great.
do have a mailing list on one. You can find me on TikTok at Dr. QMS-Deen, QM as in Mary, S Dean. And then I'm then on all platforms. I'm on Instagram at QMS-Deen, and then it's my full name, Quiana M. Shamsid-Deen, on LinkedIn and on Facebook.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So you said that you haven't started creating those physical spaces yet.
I have not. I haven't
All
even
right.
thought about what that would look like,
Perfect.
honestly.
So let's talk about what that can look like. And I'm asking because when we get done with this, you're going to go back and you're either going to, if you manage your own website, you're going to go edit your website. If you have someone who
Okay.
manages it, you're going to tell them what to edit. So we are thinking about what you are going to call your offerings. What services do you
Mm-hmm.
offer? So just like with your consulting business, right? You do audits, you might do trainings, right? You do professional
Mm-hmm.
development. In
Mm-hmm.
this, we're going to think about your sorts of offerings, which could be storytelling on the stage. You could do keynote presentations. Your offerings could be spaces that you create. So healing circles, support groups, places
Mm-hmm.
that women can go to, right? Your offerings
Mm-hmm.
can be conferences where many people come to see just you, right? So let's
Wow.
Right. Let's think about first those sorts of spaces that you have been in that
Mm-hmm.
have been beneficial to you, that have poured
Mm-hmm.
into you. And what do those spaces look like? What are the qualities of those spaces that you would like to now mirror, right? Or replicate
Mm-hmm.
in the spaces that you're holding for women?
Wow, I like the intimate spaces
Mm,
because I think what's important is, again, having voice. Specifically, Black women, they need to be able to have voice. And I think you can get drowned out by too
hmm
many people. So
hmm
if we're talking about
mm,
healing circles, they need to be small, intimate areas, intimate spaces,
okay.
not large quantities of
Hmm.
people there, so that everyone has an opportunity to just have voice if they choose.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
even if you don't choose to, at least those who do have voice to actually be heard and to
Hmm.
be poured into, and that can be a little bit difficult with a lot of people. So those are the spaces that have been very beneficial to me,
Hmm.
um, and I would love to kind of mirror those, even if
Yeah.
it's national or if it's forums or whichever. It could be virtual, however, but just creating those intimate spaces to kind of just let your hair
Yeah.
down, let it out, let your
Yeah.
hair down, but be able to kind of
Okay.
facilitate, which I think is
Yep.
great that I have that social work background to be able
Hmm.
to navigate and facilitate through those
Wow.
experiences as well.
Yeah, so it sounds like right now, perhaps a larger conference might not be intimate enough, but we can think
Mhm.
about the retreat space, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
weekends that you
Mhm.
can spend in healing,
Mhm.
or you can think about
Mhm.
healing circles or the support groups are more short
Mhm.
term, like
Mhm.
90-minute sessions. You can have them
Mhm.
one time, or you can have series
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
people follow. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I think is how we would want to think about the next
Mhm.
steps for you,
Yeah.
right? So eliminating big spaces. I'm going to challenge you.
Yeah.
Um, so maybe not a lot of people coming for you, but there is intimacy. And think about those keynote presentations. Nope, let me do it like this. Think
Okay. I'm
about
listening.
think about that church service where you sitting there looking around like, oh, is the pastor coming to me? Did he read my diary before I came in here today?
Right. Y'all in
Right.
our business.
So you would be surprised by how intimate things can be, even in large groups. However, I do think that there's a benefit to honing in on what makes sense to you, what resonates to you. So I'm going to keep that in the back of my mind, that I'm going to
Mhm.
challenge you to do some keynote speaking in the future. However, in
Okay.
terms of honing in on your lane right now, it sounds like you're leaning more towards either short-term healing circles or, right, retreat space. That's why you do some nods and
Mhm.
some lighting up,
Mhm.
right? So those more
Mhm.
intimate sorts of
Mhm.
spaces. Talk to me
I
about your
like
thoughts
both.
about, okay.
I
Have you
like
had
both.
experiences in both?
I've recently have done speaking engagements, yes.
Okay.
Not
Okay. How were those for
necessarily
you?
in this space. I
Okay.
enjoy them surprisingly, as nerve-wracking as they are, because I
Hmm.
am, despite what people may think, I'm actually an introvert. I just know
Same.
how to
Look at our
extrovert.
hearts.
I know how
Exactly.
to. And so when I do them, you're nerve wracking. You don't know if you're gonna say what you're supposed to say, if it's gonna make sense. And so afterwards, when you get the feedback, like, oh, okay, so you did get, I did make
Yeah,
sense.
right.
Okay, cool, 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 cool. But I do enjoy the pouring. I like pouring into. I do. That's what I love. I love pouring into. So I don't think there's a size to the pouring into. I
Mm,
think when it comes to sitting down and doing the work, that's when it'll be more intimate to be able to kind of like, okay, like let's have these conversations, let's work through those things, and maybe it's more on the like coaching side of things because I don't want to really do the counseling piece of it. Been there, done
one-on-one
that. I'm
coaching.
good. Yeah, no, like group, just because I believe
Okay.
in
I'm thinking about your services
sisterhood.
still. So I'm
Yeah,
like, are
yeah,
they
yeah,
one-on-one group? So we're
yeah.
still
I don't
small
want to
group
do that.
here.
I don't want to do that.
Sisterhood. Wow, wow,
I
wow. So
feel
talk
like
about that.
sisterhood heals, and there's a
That's
book that
purpose.
really
That's
sparked
purpose.
that.
That's
And I
purpose.
would recommend that's
Yeah.
one of the books that kind of I had already been doing this, but I didn't have a term for it. But the book is called Sisterhood Heals, and it just
Mm,
gave me words to what I was passionate about, and I firmly believe, and have witnessed it myself, that sisterhood heals,
wow. Yeah.
community heals, and we come from that background, communal. Black folks are communal in nature, and we do everything communally. We raise our children together communally. Why would healing not be a part of that? So that
Wow.
is what is pushing me to figure out how to create those spaces for
Mm,
women to
yeah.
be the
Okay.
source of
Yep.
healing together communally.
Yep. Yep.
Not
Wow.
necessarily the one-on-ones anymore. I think we have that, but
Yep.
I think
Okay.
we can incorporate both. So in the
Yeah.
small entities is what I want to do, but on the larger scale, I would absolutely, be a keynote to talk about the power of that, to talk
Okay.
about the need
Right.
for that, to talk
Right.
about,
Right.
we women have dealt with so many issues. We can't, some people say we can't get along. I have not experienced that. So I
Yeah.
don't know what y'all talking about. I get along.
Hmm.
I love women. I love womanhood. I call it womanships. I just think they're so powerful. And I want us to put that on the grand stage of how powerful women as communal spaces for healing and growth and empowerment is just a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. And we
Well,
need to, yeah.
unfortunate for you, you just said the grand stage. So keynotes are back on your offerings because another thing that we have to consider is how do you generate leads? You're going to
Yeah.
generate leads through your podcast. You're going to generate leads through these online engagements. Keynotes is a way to talk to a large group of people and to say, if you find yourself resonating with these examples and these experiences that
Mm-hmm.
I'm sharing, come join the group next week. Or,
Mm-hmm.
right, come join our next cohort of sisters, or come
Mm-hmm.
to our next retreat, right? So it'll start to form a vision here.
Form.
But
Yeah.
I do think that in terms of bringing in leads, and because you just said illuminating it on the big stage, that is to say
Mm,
that, yeah, you got to get in front of the crowd, and that'll bring
okay.
more people in to the smaller groups. Okay.
Okay.
So we're going towards in the offerings,
Mm-hmm.
small group,
Okay.
sisterhood circles, healing circles, heart circles. I love,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we can think about
Mm-hmm.
what that looks like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about your understanding or your kind of initial impression when I say sisterhood retreats. How does that resonate with you in terms of something that you might be interested in doing?
I love them. I had a whole, I don't want to say it
Okay.
because somebody might try to steal it, but I had this whole idea. You remember how we used to love having slumber parties? And that was when
Yeah,
we had such a good time. And so,
yeah.
now that I said it out loud, if someone does it, they know I said it first when we put this out. I said it first so they steal it.
And let me
But
tell you, now that
I
you
wrote
said
out
it
a
out
whole,
loud,
yeah,
even if
yeah.
they try, they're not going to be able to do it like you do it. That lane will be yours. And okay, if y'all want to replicate
Yeah,
or
that's
try to
how
duplicate, it won't be.
yeah, that's how
Wow.
I envisioned a new way of tackling retreat. Like
Us,
taking us
we
back
love
to
us.
that, taking it back. We love them. We enjoy being with our girlfriends, kikiing, doing whatever. Why not go back? And I remember that too when people say go back to your childhood,
Wow.
to the things that brought you joy. So that's the way that I'm thinking about it. Like women, again, communal, coming together, and we start off in these
Ah,
spaces that bring us joy, just being together. Don't come with the bouginess. I don't sleep in summer bags, whatever. I mean, we can add it where everybody got their own room or whatever. But that's just the first space of where those retreats will take place. That's where it can start with starting off with however a summer parties start with, and having food and fellowshipping together, starting with some
yeah.
games, and then having a little
Yeah.
bit more intimate healing spaces in a living
What?
room, at a
Yeah.
fireplace, or something like that. That can be something that can take on a whole thing of its
Dr.
own, where
Kiana,
it's
sign me
travel.
up. Sign me up. First of all, you already have your first cohort. I already know the people who need to come to this. You called it a sleepover or a slumber party. What did you call it?
I just call it sisterhood slumber. I
What?
wrote it down a long time ago, but I've
You
never done
don't
anything
need
with
me.
it.
You don't need me. You don't need me.
Yes, I do, because you're
Wow.
my accountability.
Yeah,
You know
okay,
how we
okay. So
do.
that
You
so
know
so yeah,
how
so
we
that's
do.
what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna check in on you and we're gonna set a deadline. We're gonna give you a month, or I'm gonna ask you how long you think it's gonna take to sit down, comb your heart. We know that we use AI, so ask
Yeah.
ChatGPT, here's
Yeah.
my bio, here's my expertise, these are the three things I want to do. Give me these
Yeah.
small blurbs, right? I'm gonna
Mhm.
challenge you. I want to see that update to your website and to start thinking about these offerings because until you put
Mhm.
it out there,
Yeah.
you won't be able to see, oh, wait, Aisha, Tamora, everybody wants to sign
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
We want to
Yeah. Yeah.
sign up. This is so
Yeah.
needed. This is so
That'll be a lot of
needed.
fun. Yeah, I've been sitting on it for again a few years. Like,
Well,
all right.
let me not give you any
Yeah.
more ideas. You tell me what other ideas you have had because you have the ideas. And then we can think about ways to one, like I just said, generating leads is going to be really
Mhm.
important. So,
Yeah.
social media, right? using your social media to direct people to your website to see your offerings, using your social
Okay.
media to, even after this, you look great right now. Log on TikTok and say, oh my God, I just had a great conversation. Y'all stay
Yeah.
tuned. There might be some slumber parties coming. You don't know what they're going to be about, but they're going to help y'all
Yeah.
heal. Right. So generating leads, generating anticipation, using your social media, and I'm saying this because I see you online all the time. You already have that presence. You already have that
Thank
audience.
you.
You already have people that when you say, hey, I'm going to be here Saturday at this o'clock, they're coming to see you and to see what you're offering.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for that.
All right, so we got
I
we
might.
got the slumbers, we got the
Yeah.
circles, we got
Mm-hmm.
that you are gonna do. What other
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
ideas? And I'm asking for others, but
Yeah.
3 is enough, right? Like those,
Yeah. I think
that's income.
yeah. I have a lot. I have a lot that
Yes,
I have been toying with, but that's just how my brain goes. 3:30 in the morning when I'm waking
yeah.
up in the middle of the night, I'm like, ooh, ooh, ooh. But I need to
Same,
focus on
same, same.
implementing at least one of them, and then it will flow into other things. But I've had ton of ideas, even just thinking about just
Ah,
the idea of grief and how we're processing that. And, I even thought about Hallmark cards that are for those who don't know what to say. Like, here are just a line of cards that you can give for those who don't know what to say. Just I've thought about a whole bunch of stuff, but
yeah. So
we'll
those
see.
things that sound like passion projects are things that you can utilize to give back. So one thing that we do in the
Mm-hmm.
Empower Lab is we just generate resources, free
Yeah,
resources.
yeah, yeah.
But
Okay.
all of those resources have a little QR code that lead back to my website that says if you want to pay for something, this is how you can do that.
Yeah.
So make
Okay.
those greeting cards, have a separate tab on
Okay.
your website, have them on social media, pass them
Mm-hmm.
out whenever you're in the community, and that is a beneficial thing. So what I will say about monetizing is that, right,
Mm-hmm.
everything doesn't have to be for money. So those
Yes.
things that you
Understood.
think about, right, you can, in the end, right, when we think about burnout, it doesn't have to be you. You can design
Mm-hmm.
those greeting cards and then say, and we still people, right? One of Tamora's best friends, Lisa got all them kids who
She
be on
do.
social media. Tell one of
Mm-hmm.
them kids to design these green cards for you, right? Find someone who
Mm-hmm.
also has a passion
Yeah.
in digital design or social media, right? And allow them to use their passion. Now they can put that on their resume to say that they have worked with Dr. Quiana as an intern, right? And you can
To
have these
design it.
ideas that you are not
Yeah.
the one who has to be the work behind it, right? All the
Okay.
psychoeducation that I put out, baby, 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm in the bed, I sit up and I text one of my students, we need psychoeducation on finding support as LGBTQ, right? And they're going to be the ones who generate that. But the
Mm-hmm.
ideas, the mirroring that's coming down, the messages that you are now
Mm-hmm.
using to help
Mm-hmm.
people heal, to
Mm-hmm.
serve your purpose, what you have found, right? Whatever's pissing you off, that you realize we Black women don't have this safe space, right? We
Mm-hmm.
need to be able to be courageous and to be soft.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
utilize all of these ideas towards it. It feels like a lot. It does. It feels
Yeah.
overwhelming, right? So
Yeah.
a part
Yeah.
of our job is to hone in on those.
I
So
love
yeah,
that.
I'm
Okay.
listen, I'm writing your accountability. We're gonna have the slumbers, we're gonna have the the healing circles and
Yeah.
the healing cards. But don't
I
take
love
that,
that.
right,
Yeah.
as something that is now, oh my God, it's so burdensome. I have another task that I need to do, right? A part
I don't
of
think that.
okay,
I don't think
okay.
that
I
because
want
I
you
think I'm
to
in this
leave here
space of
feeling
I'm
inspired.
ready.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
am. I'm. It would be if I'm like another thing to do, but because I'm yielding is where
Mm,
the space that I'm in. Just we get in our own way and like, nah, I ain't doing that. Da, da, da. But now I'm just yielding to whatever God is saying, and like, all right,
yeah.
okay, we'll figure it out. It's overwhelming because sometimes you get in your own way of self doubt. I don't know if it's going to
Mm-hmm.
be me. I don't know if I have it to do it. But even through that, the thing that I have
Mm-hmm.
changed in this year is still pushing through the self
Yeah.
doubt. Whether I doubt it or not, just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Just do it. Do it anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's where I have been. I'm everything you're saying. I'm like, all right, it's just confirmation. I've already been saying it in
Yeah.
my head. I've been writing it down. And now I
Okay.
just need to get past that self doubt and implement and just see where the chips lay.
Ooh, so we're gonna facilitate, and I'm gonna hold you accountable, and we'll have more conversations about, okay, I have all these things that I want to do. How do I delegate those to some people,
Hmm.
right? That's why I asked
Hmm.
you, are you managing your website or is somebody else managing your website?
So yes, I have a web developer
Okay,
who
great.
can update what I need to update, and
Great.
yeah.
Great,
So I'll just
great,
ask her to do that.
exactly, right? So some of this is, right, something for you to delegate. And
Mm-hmm.
then we're going to figure out, okay, so what am I working on? And those things that
Mm-hmm.
you're working on are those things that no one else can do, right? If
Mm-hmm.
someone needs to see your face, a video, you're the only one who can record those videos, right?
Correct.
But if it's, I have this new idea and I want someone to flesh it out, they can help you flesh it out, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So those are the sort of things that we'll talk about in terms of how to implement each of these things that now we're saying you're going to do, because you're going to do them. And then
Okay.
the question of what do I do first, that's going to come to you sort of like everything else has come to you along your journey. It's been
Mm-hmm.
inevitable. Someone's going to go to your website
Yeah.
and say, sign me up for a healing circle. And you're going to have 10
Mm-hmm.
people, and now you got to do a
Now
healing
I gotta have
circle, right?
one.
Exactly. It's going to happen organically. So one thing that
Mm-hmm.
I found is that what's meant to be will be. You're not going to have to
Mm-hmm.
chase it. You're not going to have to chase it. So we're going to do the work to put these things out. They're going to generate leads just by you being yourself. People are going to start DMing you. People are going to start emailing you. People are going to start reaching
Mm-hmm.
out. And then the next thing is you're going to have to do is call me, because you're going to be scared and you're going to say, someone asked me to do this keynote and I can't do this keynote. And I'm going to have to be the one that says, yes, you can. Tell them
Yeah.
yes. This is how
Yeah.
much you charge, because you're going to be trying to charge way too way too little. I'm going to say
Mm-hmm.
increase your prices, and this is how we're
Mm-hmm.
going to do it. So yes, the first thing is to claim it and to say that you could do it, because you can. You have the expertise, you have the experiences, you have the passion and the purpose and the
Mm-hmm.
power, right, to do all of these things. So literally, at this point, it's inevitable.
Yes, ma'am. That's all I can
Right?
say. Yes, ma'am. I yield. I
Yield.
yield.
And the other thing I need, and what why I say I need you to do, but you already did it, and I pushed back on you and said you can't do it, but being able to say no. So I said you can't say no to keynotes, but so say I said I want you to do healing circles for white women. You can tell me no, right, right. So
Yeah, I don't know if that's my target audience, ma'am. And it
yeah,
depends on what you want to heal, because I could talk to you, but it may not be about something you want to talk about.
right, right, right. So there you go. And zoning in on what your lane is, right? So
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily for white women. So what is it that you want to heal? Black women, you talked about heart journeys, you talked about grief, you talked about
Mm-hmm.
letting down or letting go of the need to be strong and walking into
Mm-hmm.
your softness and
Mm-hmm.
vulnerability. What would you
Communal.
say?
Yeah, I want to talk
Communal
about how
healing.
we commune together, because as I
Yeah.
said, there are these conversations about not being able to work together or just having these
Hmm.
infightings, and I'm
Hmm.
like, I feel like
Hmm.
we're operating from unhealed places. So
Wow.
what is that that's keeping you from being able to be in community with your sisters? What is
Yeah.
that? And maybe we need to discuss that a little bit more so we can heal your idea of sisterhood. Period.
Wow. So
That
your
could be
nose in the Black women space, for example, nose would be what? Drama. Maybe we're not
it. Hmm.
right. Like maybe this isn't the space to come and let out your beef with your
Yeah.
homegirl. Maybe this is the okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're not
Okay.
doing that. And if that is where you want to be, then what we're going to do is talk about why you feel that is a necessity.
Okay. Right. So
Why
you're
do
gonna
you
bring it
want to
back to the
hold
purpose.
on? Yeah. Why
Good.
do you want to hold on to being in drama with your sister?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
So the
And that's
no's
still,
are.
understanding that there are just some people who we know that we have to have discernment about those who are in our spaces. And we also need to understand that I think is very, very, very important to know that everyone isn't a safe space. Everyone doesn't have
Mm,
the capacity to be a safe space. So having the discernment to know that, and also having the courage to say you're not safe. But
mm,
I don't have to treat you a certain way because you're not safe. I just have to
yeah.
acknowledge that. And how
Yeah.
you want to interpret that is on you. And hopefully you will want to do the work to be safe
Hmm.
for someone.
Hmm.
It's just not for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And that you got to
Yeah.
be willing to want to be that and work on those things that make you. I wrote about this on my Facebook the other day, and it's something that I'm working on myself. Is how do people experience you? That is what I am intentional about. When people experience me, is
Mm.
it safety that I exude for them? Because that's what I want to be.
Yep.
So that's what I want to promote for others, and how that's important. to be able to
Yeah.
have that amongst Black women. We're not safe
Mm-hmm.
outside of our community. We already know that. We know what we're fighting against. We even sometimes fighting against our own Black men.
Mm-hmm.
At least can I find safety with you who look like me? At least.
Mm.
And what does it take?
Okay.
What does it take to do that? What work I got to
Yeah.
do internally to
Mm.
be that for you?
Yeah. So there's another in terms of ruling out what this is and is not. This is not
Mm-hmm.
like you're not doing co-ed spaces. This is for women specifically. It's not a
Mm-mm.
relationship space. Got it. I love this. I love this. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-mm. No,
Mhm.
and I have seen that too. Not I don't want to say I've seen that, but even if we were to involve men, the way that I envisioned that was it's still the woman's space,
Mm.
and there are men surrounded by their woman, whoever their woman is.
Mm.
It could be a sister, it could be your wife, it could be your girlfriend, it could be your baby mama, whichever. That you are putting your hands on them to make sure that you're letting them know I am going to be that person that allows you to be safe. It's not for you to come in and say what it's not. No, it's for you to help curate those spaces for
Don't
that
even enter
person.
this space if that's not the lens that you're taking. If you're not in this space to
That's it.
contribute to soften it, we're not here to make things easier
That's
for
it.
you.
It's for
There we
you to
go. Okay.
hear. It's for you to hear.
Mm-hmm.
It's for you to give your woman, your sister, your mother voice, and to just
I
place your
love
hands
that.
on
I
them
love that. Yeah.
and say, I will do whatever it is that I need to do to make sure that you feel safe or to create that environment for you, create
Safe and
that space
soft.
for you. And that's it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
how men would be able to serve that. Y'all can have your own healing space because I can't work on y'all.
Hmm.
But I need you to see the importance of creating that for the women in your life.
Wow. Yep.
So that's how I would see men being involved.
Yeah. I love it. I'm coming. I'm coming. I'm coming. So,
Yeah.
what questions do you have about next steps, about structuring these offerings?
Those are the questions.
What are the
You
next
just
steps
said
and how do
that.
I structure them?
Yeah, I don't even know where to start. I think I've
Yeah, your next.
started in my own way. I think I started in my
Hmm.
own way by just, like I said, starting the conversations, putting myself out there in the forefront.
Hmm.
Like you
Hmm.
said, doing the TikTok things that are weird, but doing it anyway.
Hmm. Hmm. Pricing, I think, is another thing.
Writing. So the next
Yeah.
thing will be, like you said, putting it on the website that this is what I'm offering, even though, it hasn't started yet. But okay, I'm saying it out loud that this is what I want to do. So let's do it.
And you're not on the website saying
Yeah.
they haven't started yet, right? You're just saying these are
Yeah, I'm
what I
saying that this
offer.
is what I'm going to offer. Yeah. So now flushing that out, what do I want to name it? What do I want to call it? And then putting
Exactly.
it on the website. Here are the
How
offerings that
much are
we're
you
going to
going to
do.
charge for it?
Yeah. Yeah. I got to think about that too. So yeah,
Because it's
I'm going to have to.
monetizing, right? We're not doing this for free, right?
Correct. Yes,
We are going
ma'am.
to do some
Correct.
things for free, but you do need to charge
Yes,
for these things.
I do. You're right. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do.
I need to do that.
Yes. You
So
are in the
I think that
nonprofit
is,
space and the nonprofit mind. And these
yeah.
services, I think, are towards giving back, but we do need to think about
Mm-hmm.
how do I monetize that? That can be, right, that I
Mm-hmm.
charge the individuals, or it can be that I find a sponsor, or that I get
Mm-hmm.
donors, right? Or that I get the men who need to support the women, right? To
Mm-hmm.
now pay for these services and sponsor
Mm-hmm.
the next cohort.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah. I have
also
to
what we
flesh
can think
out this and the structure, like you said. Is this going to be how the healing circle going to look? What's the
about.
format?
Are they
Is it
virtual? Are they
are
in
they
person?
virtual? Yeah, are they in person? And then what's the budget? If you're renting out a space, what do you have to charge for people to come? And
What
if
space
you
do I
don't,
have access
what
to?
space? Yep, all of those
What
things
space do
are the
my
things I have to
friends have
think about.
access to? I got membership at the
Yes,
gathering spot. They allow for
yes,
group meetings, right? So yes. So yes. Those are the
yeah.
things
So
that we're
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
talk about.
Absolutely. So
Okay.
yeah, I have to. You're right. There's a lot of things to flesh out for sure.
And when you say a lot, how does that feel? Do you feel inspired? Do you feel ready to go? Do you feel
I
overwhelmed?
feel I feel excited with fear at the same time because it's new. But that's just
Okay.
honest.
Okay, and I love that you said instead of saying strong, you want people to be courageous because that's what this calls
Mhm.
for, right?
Mhm.
Fear is very real, especially when you're facing the unknown, but that courage is what says, I'm going to do it,
Mhm. And
even
that's
though
where
I
I'm at.
am scared. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay. And I like that. So
Mhm.
inspired and a little scared. That means that it's big. but it's
Mm-hmm.
important.
Mm-hmm.
But it is also, I truly do think, right? Like we haven't said that you are starting from square one or that you are creating
Mm-hmm.
something completely different. These are spaces, right, that you are used to having. You've had the
Yeah.
slumbers, you've had the healing circles, we've had them
Mm-hmm.
ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
this is to say, how do I put this on my website? How do I talk about this on TikTok? How do I get people as excited as I am? And it could be
Mm-hmm.
a matter of clipping up this conversation that we're having, or like I say, just getting in front of your conversation and saying,
Mm-hmm.
so excited about this space.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah. Okay.
that's really what I think is going to get people excited too.
I'm excited.
So how do we take that fear and make it something that's manageable? For me, that is through setting deadlines. Oh, you went through grad school, you know how to make it from one step, right? So this is saying we just gave you a thesis, a comps project, a dissertation, right? And now you have to set deadlines for each of those, right?
All of it.
First, right. First step
All of
being
it. Comparative
website.
analysis. Like
Exactly.
everything.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I'm saying this knowing that you have your husband, you have your kids, you have your businesses that you are currently working on. So this is something that we are adding. I'm not going to say on
Mm-hmm.
top of because that feels kind of heavy, but we're adding that alongside these things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So realistically, and I know that and what I will say is that a lot of the planning that you're going to do is just going to be in your brain, right?
It is.
A lot of this part of the process is going to just be thinking, right? So realistically, we have these three main offerings plus what you're going to delegate being
Mm-hmm.
those cards that are free.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How long will it take for you to get that first step? Just to get a blurb of those three main offerings and send them to your website developer.
Oh, I can do that when I get off the phone.
There
I
we
need
go.
to get off of this. We're not on the phone. When I get off the
It
computer.
feel like a FaceTime. It feels like we are FaceTime, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna as soon as I get off, I'm gonna actually try to flush out, the descriptions and what I want to call them. And
hmm
then once I do that, say, hey, Kenya, can you make a tab on the website and put this up there?
Franks.
Yeah, yeah,
Exactly. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So we're gonna do that today. In that case, I want to set one more deadline for you so that you
Mhm.
have something to work on between now and the next time that we talk.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, the next part of that will be fleshing out each of those offerings. What do you
Okay.
want them to look like? That'll be
Yeah.
brainstorming. So
Yeah.
get your like ideal what I want them to look like, and then we'll come together and we'll talk it over.
Okay.
We talked about ChatGPT and the power of that. So use whatever AI you
Mm.
use. Do it yourself first. Put in
Okay.
your
Yeah.
bio, put in all your information and
Yeah.
allow it to help you structure it. And then
Okay.
we're gonna bring back our combined
Mhm.
expertise
Mhm.
to
Yes.
reframe and
I
to make
love
it
it.
more solidified for next steps.
I love it. Yeah.
You are, listen, I told you, you are already doing this. You are already doing this work. You are already creating this space, but it is a matter
Yeah.
of thinking about, how can I monetize that? Once we
Mhm.
have those three offerings, once you describe them, then we're going to,
Mhm.
which is the most daunting part, we're going to put value to them. We're going to
Okay.
say, how much are people willing to pay for this? And then we're going to
Okay.
figure out, do we want the women to pay for it? Do we want corporations to pay for it? Do we want
Mhm.
donors?
Yeah.
Like, how are we going to get this paid for? But it
That could be
has a
fun.
value and you will get money from it.
That could be fun.
Those
You
are
could even do like, grants for
it. You're in academia.
them.
Exactly. Exactly. And when we say grants, right, like we don't have to write the NIH. There are
Yeah,
nonprofit
no,
grants that
no. Like,
exist. There are
yeah.
foundation grants that exist.
Yeah, yeah.
Period, point blank.
Mhm.
Um, Dr. Raquel Martin, who is going to be another guest on this Mirror Mirror series, she has a cohort.
Really?
Yes, she's a good friend of mine. She has a cohort that she does that's called Burn the Cape that she does to support. Again, we're all in Black spaces, but
Mhm,
hers are
mhm,
for academics and burning again that superhero cape. Completely
mhm.
different from the mental health and the healing.
Yep,
And
yep.
I wanted to say yours is mental health because yours is really holistic, especially when you bring in the heart.
Mhm,
Completely different lanes, right? Which is why
mhm,
we need to
mhm.
carve out our lanes and carve out our spaces. She doesn't do retreats or healing circles, but she does have a cohort based model that I think
Awesome.
is really important to think about in terms of how you can structure things. She does donations to fund her cohort. The women themselves
Okay.
don't pay. But
That's awesome.
donations, write a grant, right? Like, yes, that'll be the next step. But first, we
Yeah,
got to think about what these offerings are, and then
what
we're
they
going to put
are.
value to them. And I
Yeah.
guarantee whatever you think the value is at least 3 times that. So I'm going to blow your mind when we have this next conversation, because we always undersell ourselves and always undervalue ourselves. And what you have described here, I'm going
Mm,
to say is invaluable, but we're going to put a dollar amount to it for these
okay.
women, and to be able to
Okay.
bring it to them, and also allow it to serve you in a way that the ultimate goal, right, is to where you're going to be able to work less on all these other things. You're going to be able to delegate and facilitate things that are only bringing in leads for what this purpose is and what this passion is. And again, where we started, what's pissing you off in your purpose, and also what's easy to you that
Mhm.
people need. And we need healing, and we need that soft space, and we need that permission to be courageous. So
Mhm.
thank you so very much for
Thank
that
you.
purpose that you have, and following that purpose, because it's hard, right? Like you said, that
Mhm.
9 to 5 is very secure and very safe and comfortable.
It is
And it
very.
is courageous of you to step out of that as well.
Thank you. Thank you, sis.
You're amazing. Oh my goodness, you guys. I hope that you have benefited from this conversation. Of course, Quiana and I, we said this is the face on. We are going to continue this conversation. We're going to continue working
Yeah.
out. We're going to continue these play dates with our babies. But I really want to just conclude by saying that, one of our main takeaways is that, yes, we're going to monetize our doctorate. Yes, we're going to make money out of the work that we're doing. But the true work is through that, finding your purpose, finding your passion, finding a way to give back to others in a way that's been poured into us. So I really
Mhm.
appreciate you for that. I think, embody that, and that you are
Yeah.
my mirror. I hope that I've been a mirror to help illuminate some of the strengths in the direction that you are already going in. So thank you
Yeah.
so much, Dr. Quiana, for coming in this space, for sharing your experiences so courageously. I love your little babies. I love you so very much. For our
Yeah.
audience, I know that they love you now too. Please, one more time, remind them where they can find you. Give us your handles and your website.
All right. So you can find me at www.fempoweredstories.com or nayapearl.com. And you can also find me on it's Dr. QMSD. Okay, that's on TikTok as well as Instagram, and then my full name, Quiana M. Shamsid-Deen, on LinkedIn and on Facebook.
Dr.
Okay, thank
Quiana,
you for having me.
you have been a pleasure. Listen, we were supposed to talk about me, my love life, and you're fixing my love life. So I'm going to bring you back, and we're going to talk about like relationships and that space,
Okay.
because truly you have given me so much insight, not just from even the first moment of being like, no, that's not your husband, but right, just thinking about discernment. I can be vulnerable about my journey as well. But just talking about
Hmm.
discernment, making choices, sitting in
Hmm.
those choices, finding the silver lining in the outcome of those choices. I think that
Hmm.
all of that is a process that we continue to go through as women, as Black
Absolutely.
women. It's what allows us to continue our sisterhood. So
Yep.
thank you so much. You will be back. To our
Yes,
listeners, thank
ma'am.
you for joining today. Please leave us a review. Please like, comment, subscribe. As usual, if you have any questions, you can send them to the empowerlab@gmail.com. We'll do a mailbag episode at the end where I just answer a bunch of questions. I might bring some of my mirror guests to help answer questions. If y'all have anything specific to Dr. Quiana, you know how to reach out to her. But if you have something for the mailbag, if you love her, I know you do, say, bring her back. And I'll share that with her. She can actually put that on her social media as a testimony, right? So
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
we're
ma'am.
gonna keep right
Mhm.
pouring into each other into this way. So please share this episode, you guys. We will be back, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Black and Empowered Podcast.
So you can find Black and Empowered podcast on YouTube and on Dr. Isha Metzger's website. So click on her handle, go under Black and Empowered podcast. You can find an ample amount of podcast episodes where we're talking all things Black, all things wellness, and all things Black excellence. See you there.